Hello and welcome to another episode of Her Helping Habit on Air. We are a Canadian fertility agency specializing in known egg donation, embryo donation, and surrogacy, helping intended parents, surrogates, and donors navigate their journeys through education, support, and advocacy. Through open conversations and shared experiences, we aim to empower everyone involved in the family building process. Her Helping Habit on Air does not provide medical advice. These are simply lived experiences shared to help make the often uncharted world of infertility feel a little less scary. My name is Jess, and I'm one of our egg donor coordinators here with Her Helping Habit. And today I am joined by Julia Howell, an alternative family building coach, helps people who are facing a chapter of their story that they never anticipated. Julia comes to us with a wide range of her own experiences, from infertility to adoption, from motherhood to surrogacy. And we're so grateful to be hearing your story here today and how you support others as they write their own. So thank you for being here with me today, Julia.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a nice opportunity to be able to share. I think anybody who has been in this community knows how valuable it is to share and feel that you're connecting with other people in whatever stage of your journey you're in. So I'm happy to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to start off with telling us a little bit about your own story, how you entered this world of fertility and becoming a mom?
Yeah, for sure. So as soon as I got married, I stopped preventing pregnancy. It was very much on the forefront of what I wanted to do next. And I was ready to be a mom for as long as I can remember. So I don't remember a time when I wasn't taking care of something or someone. So after about 12 months of no success in where I was not preventing, I contacted my family doctor and did the usual, referral to fertility, did the whole slew of testing. I always fell somewhere under the, unexplained infertility. I went through a period of time where my doctor was very adamant that my weight had a lot to do with it. So, but all in all, it was just sort of unexplained. So I spent a good 4 years doing what I sort of coined the amazing race for fertility, where after that first year and that referral, and we did the testing and we started that path of being monitored, where you're just like, you're doing the temps at home, everything is a calendar, everything is, how many days from are you? And I got connected with a doctor downtown Toronto at Women's College. And so that was where I entered sort of the thick of it, where it was like you were racing downtown Toronto at 6 a.m. to find a parking spot to hopefully not be the 50th person in line for the ultrasound or blood work that day. Like you look back and it's like the most unconducive environment to
Absolutely.
It's wild. But it was me and a ton of other women. And from time to time, the faces would change and you sort of would assume that meant that they made it to the next.
Yeah.
But also in that time, my spouse at the time, my children's dad, was in his early training of the military. And so there was a lot going on. And ultimately we decided to go as far as IUI. That was about 4.5 years in. And that was where I was like, okay, let's do this. And the doctors gave us a lot of hope that would be it. And when it wasn't, obviously the disappointment is huge. And that was another point where you're at that crossroads of the decisions, these are the options, which path are you going to go? And for me at that time, I felt pretty tapped out with my body, just the over critiquing everything, every twinge, every timing, it's just such a head game. And at that point, I was still quite young. I knew for me, the goal was always to be a mother, not so much be pregnant. That was ideal, I guess, but not necessarily required to get to the motherhood part. So after a bit of a scary appointment with my doctor in Toronto, where we found some precancerous cells, that triggered us to do a little bit more investigating. We had to do the biopsy and do a little bit more digging. Thank goodness it never went further than that. I had to just do the annual PAPs for a few years, and then once that was good, we were good to go. But ultimately, that whole experience led me to making the decision to not necessarily include my body, to be open to a non-biological child, and go through the process of becoming a foster parent, and ultimately be becoming a mom through adoption.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, beautiful. I looked into your story a little bit when I was preparing for this episode, and I was honestly touched by it. I also used to work at a fertility center, so
Mhm.
I was hands-on with, our IUI patients, our
Yes.
IVF patients, and it really is just such an impactful time. So thank you for sharing that with
Yeah,
us.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, you went on to have your first daughter through adoption, and then you are also a bio mom, and you also went on to surrogacy as well. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So once I had achieved motherhood, the idea of a genetic child was sort of at the back burner of my brain. Once I realized I had become pregnant naturally for the first time, I was so stunned. It was sort of a blur of disbelief for
Yeah.
a few weeks. And ultimately that pregnancy ended at 9 weeks in miscarriage. And that was another big pivotal moment where I felt I'd been really angry at my body for not doing what it was supposed to do
Mm-hmm.
for so long. And then to have felt so fulfilled by I became a mother, that was happening, that was, it was wonderful. And so at the time I really didn't understand what that was about. But 5 months later I got pregnant again without intervention of any kind, and she is now my middle daughter. So when I became pregnant with her, it was definitely in my head that if there is an actual human that comes of this and my body does the thing that
Mm-hmm.
I've wanted it to do for so long, then I knew I wanted to try and do it for somebody else, and as many times as I could. And just, pregnancy, as much as it has its ups and downs, I was sort of the village idiot about the whole thing. Like, even when I felt horrible, I was so grateful to feel
Mm-hmm.
horrible, or whatever. All of the babies I helped bring earthside came via C-section, and so obviously there's pain and
Mm-hmm.
recovery in that, but there isn't any kind of childbirth. But yeah, so yeah, it just seemed like a total no-brainer that the next thing would be to help other people. I thought at the time that my family was complete with both my daughters. I felt complete for sure, and I still felt that there was so much I could do in helping people that were like who I was then. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, especially now, I'm 45, and it's like a small period of time in my life where I was in that amazing race for fertility. But it's such an impactful thing, right? It shapes who you are. It changes who you are. It changes who you are as a parent, and like, it just affects
Mm-hmm.
everything, right? So, and now it's been my whole life's work too. So
Awesome. Wow. Thank you for sharing that with us. I was definitely intrigued to see how an individual can go from handling their own fertility struggles all the way to helping other people with theirs. So that was amazing to hear. So I do have a list of questions for you. So one of the big questions that people considering donor gametes tend to have is, how will they explain the conception story to their future child one day? So can you provide a little insight into how you shared or plan to share that story with your own kids, or how you guide other people with that?
yeah, that's a big question that comes up from the surrogate standpoint. It's sort of like, how do I explain to my children what I'm doing, like from the
Mm-hmm.
helping position? And then certainly we want to make sure we have the language and we're able to articulate to the children that come to the world this way. For me, the biggest thing is transparency. That is
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing. And to know that children are so easy about this. It's not
Yeah.
complicated for them to understand that, somebody needs help, you help them. It's a beautiful lesson, of course, to reinforce and to be living proof that people can do this and help in such a huge way. But it also is just very simple to them, like it
Mm-hmm.
was. My daughters were 2 and 5 when I started to become a surrogate and be in that world. And so it's just so normal to them, but also because of the way I became a mom, it was very normal in our household to have things, like just because I grew you doesn't mean I am your mom. Just because you didn't grow inside me doesn't mean I'm not your mom. Like there was lots of, terms like tummy mommy and things like that were just really, really normal for my daughters. But the biggest thing to know is that kids are just really easy about it. It's not something that is like earth shattering that needs to be, a sit down. But I am really adamant that it needs to be full transparency, full story right from the beginning. And I'm happy to be able to help create that language in an age appropriate way and help people. I know not everybody knows how to, relay these things or have conversations with their kids, but I'm there for that too.
That's awesome. Honestly, one of the scariest things that people think will be one of the scariest.
Yeah.
But you're so right that, to the kid, it's just a part of them. It's not a big scary thing. They just grow up with it.
Yeah, exactly. So I have over the time being in this community, there has been times where people have wanted to be very discreet. Sometimes it's for religious reasons and that's just something where I've just said, I can't participate in that type of process. For me, it just has to be totally transparent. It has to be, because I really think that's the only way we fully honor the child's story. And exactly. I might be so adamant about it because I am an adoptive parent. I used to have these terrible recurring dreams where I would forget to tell my daughter that she was adopted, which is crazy. That would never happen. But it was just it was definitely in the forefront of my brain that we need to make sure that this kid has as much information as possible. And she's now 20. So I also now have had a very close, proximity view of what happens to somebody when they don't have all the information and how that affects someone as they're growing into an adult. And I always wanted to be able to provide as much as I could to her. So my favorite days at clinic are when I'm there with the surrogate, the egg donor, and the intended parents. And all the pieces are there together. And it's beautiful because, the minute this kid comes into the world, they have this whole army of people that work to get just to that moment. Never mind the people that are waiting to help raise them. And
yeah, they are the most wanted babies in the whole wide world.
Yes.
So it took so much work into bringing them into the world.
That's right.
Yeah, most loved ever.
Yeah, it was just a no-brainer that it was I think people think of surrogacy as being something that is very selfless and, you do this amazing thing for somebody. And it really, for me, felt selfish, it was very fulfilling. It was very healing. It was, very much about my journey as a mother as much as it was as, making somebody else a mother. So
I think that's a really valuable perspective to hold as well, because as much as there is the altruism factor, you still get that rewarding feeling from it, from your experience from it. You get, the relationships that could last years into your life in the future. You still have that fulfillment from it yourself as the surrogate, even though it is a selfless thing, you still have those benefits. It stays with you.
For sure. Yeah. I used to call it collateral joy, right? Along the way, all of the exchanges you have, the people you meet from the clinic level to the nurses you have at delivery, all of those experiences are so joyful and wouldn't happen if it weren't for the decision to help in this way,
Exactly. Right. What kind of support do you provide to individuals going through their own journeys? And if someone is not sure of what kind of support do they need, where do you usually start with that?
Yeah, so I spent about a decade in agency, in a traditional surrogacy agency model in terms of service. I worked as the director of client care for Canada's first surrogacy agency, and then opened a more local to me, sort of smaller agency I co-owned for 4.5 years. And the reason I left the other agency I worked for was because I was feeling terribly misaligned in terms of this is such a labor of love to use it. But it really is. It's such I don't think there is anything else I could do. There's been times in my life where I thought I can't do this anymore and I have to. It's just, there just doesn't seem to be any other path for me in terms of, feeling so passionate about helping people that find themselves on these paths. And the peer support that exists in adoption and alternative paths are so strong. When you've had these common human experiences, these end up being your village for parenting and the people, it's forever. So I think for me, it's so much about the whole picture of it.
Definitely, yeah. And I love where you went with, with it being all of it in the best interest of the child as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a lot of what her helping habit values here as well, and why we do the whole known aspect,
Yes.
because they deserve to know where their genes come from as soon as they want that information. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I love how you followed your values in that way.
Yeah. I felt, even though I was, I had the position of, well, even when I had the opportunity to have co-ownership and have that autonomy, it still wasn't enough for me to really feel as though I could provide this work in the way that I could sleep best at night. I guess,
Mm-hmm.
in the best way
Yeah.
to say it. In terms of what I provide, I think if you think of what a traditional surrogacy agency provides in terms of connecting to the professionals, the clinics, the lawyers, the counselors, all those pieces in the early processes of things. Some people will come and they have already some of the pieces and you fill in the blanks. Some people have nothing. What is the biggest difference in the work I'm doing now is that I don't play a role in matching or connecting. So people are already coming to me as what I call a team, and I'm coming in where they are to either connect those pieces like clinic, legal, and counseling, or if it's an adoption path or egg donation or embryo donation, it's the same thing, just sort of meeting them where they are and finding out what they need from there on in. I mentioned peer support. That's huge to me. So anytime I can start connecting and cultivating some peer relationships with my clients, I try and do as well. And so that's sort of the basic.
Nice. Love that. And what have you found the most surprising when supporting people undergoing fertility treatment?
I think the most surprising is maybe how people underestimate how much it does change you and change your relationships. There's a lot of grief and a lot of loss, right? Like not just in, another month passed without a positive. There's a lot of loss in friendships who go on to conceive easily, and it becomes really hard to have that friendship, or even employment that becomes really hard to be around for whatever reason. I know people that have been in the midwifery field or doula, and throughout their own struggles, it just becomes way too difficult to be in those fields. So I think that, like going into it, sort of embracing the idea that this is going to be a big changing thing, and your circle of people you have around you is likely going to change, but also reminding yourself that you should feel empowered by that too, that you have this opportunity to create a team, a village, whatever you want to refer to it as, that is going to carry you through one of the most life-changing journeys for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an awesome way to say it. If you had one piece of advice for someone entering the fertility frontier, be it a potential donor, surrogate, or someone just going through their own treatment, what would you want them to know as they make that first step?
Deep breath. There's going to be a ton of information, but it was something that I say to myself often, and it's proven valuable in many aspects of my life, is to remain optimistic without expectation. So at every step of this, there's going to be a goal, there's going to be a process, and what we can control is how we enter that process and how we speak to ourselves about that process, and the things that we prepare and can do for ourselves as we go through these steps and stages that can be really trying mentally and physically. So remaining optimistic and hopeful is really something that we maintain control of throughout the whole time. We can really believe that something is amazing is about to happen at any point.
Perfect. That is so uplifting. I love it. Is there any other, tips, tricks, advice, anything else you want to put out into the universe as we are wrapping up here today?
Oh, I just want to say thank you so much for having me again and for giving me the opportunity to share what I do and why I do it, which is sort of the most important piece for me too, is that's a big part of it. I'm a relatively new member of the Canadian Fertility and Andrology Society, and there I hope to participate in creating a third-party reproductive special interest group where we can continue to work towards more advocacy, more education, normalizing these conversations and helping people at every level, whether it's family, workplace, community, church, wherever it is, help everybody feel supported throughout this process.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think that's honestly the biggest thing that we're out here trying to do too, is just keep talking about it, keep the conversation going, and the stigma will slowly dissipate the more we do it, right?
Yeah.
If you'd like to connect with us or have questions about known egg donation, embryo donation, surrogacy, becoming a parent, or exploring whether becoming a surrogate or donor is right for you, you can find us online at Her Helping Habit or email us at info@herhelpinghabit.com. We're passionate about educating and supporting all parties throughout the journey, and you can also book a free consultation with one of our coordinators directly through our website. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon on the next episode of Her Helping Habit on Air.